That's the idea that we're going to explain has to do with Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is the Indian of the deficiency in Yira. That's what we're missing. And there's the idea of having to do with the Yerushalayim Shalmata, Yerushalayim Shalmaila, the Vovke is the second base of Mikdash that has to do with the Avodah, that has to do mainly with Maisa B'Poil. Vav is the Koil of Torah, the Hey is Dibra Maisa, the Yud-K is the first base of Mikdash, that is the Avodah of the Moichin. That's primarily has to do with the Avodah of Ava and so on. And even though we said that in the second base of Mikdash it was lacking 8 Dvarim, it was lacking 5 things, which also the Hey in the previous Maimon we explained means it was lacking the level of Hey Ilah. It only had the Hey Tata. Still in all, it's the dependent, the Eibishter's entry into Yerushalayim Shalmaila in the higher level of the base of Mikdash, from the level of Yud-K, it's dependent upon the lower level of the base of Mikdash, the level of Vavke, the Bayis Sheni, because the main thing is the Yerushalayim Shalmata, the main thing is the Avodah of Maisa B'Poil. And we also connected this with the difference between the Bayis Rishon was the Avodah of Tzadikim, which is Malmaila Lamata, versus Bayis Sheni is the Avodah of Baal Tshuva, or the Avodah of the Beinanim, which is the Avodah of Malmata Lamaila. That has to do with Adam Roitze B'Kav Shaloi Yoser B'Tisha Kavim Sh'Chaveri. A person wants his own work more than he wants to have the one of his own, rather than 9 measures of someone else. And this is this we're going to connect with the idea of Yerushalayim and Yerushalayim, and the Bone Yerushalayim Hashem. So now again, we're holding at the top of page 10. Yes, Lakashas, we can connect this in Mashin is bar was explained previously. Ikering not goal is by goal. The primary idea of the goal is in the Geula Mitzad HaKason V'Atikun V'Avoid the Be'inyan HaYiradaf, because the lack of and the necessary repair in the matter of specifically Yira as opposed to Ava. Ava, the lack of Ava of the Eibishter does not lead to destruction. It's the lack of Yira. The Hine B'Chlol saying in the Bayis Rishon, the Bayis Sheni. The general idea of the first base of Mikdash and the second base of Mikdash. We said earlier that is the first base of Mikdash, that's the Yichud of the letter Yud and K. Then the second base of Mikdash is the Yichud Vavke. Iker hu ois Hey. The primary thing is what occurs with the letter Hey. Does the letter Hey get from the Yud? Does the letter Hey get from the Vav? Hein Hey law. Whether we're talking about what happens to the upper Hey, to the higher Hey, to the first Hey of Yud Kevav, that in the upper Hey, it comes down the letter Yud. That's Yichud Yudke Bayis Rishon. That is the union of Yudke in the first base of me. Whether it's the lower Hey, that in it comes down the revelation of the letter Vav, Yichud Vavke Bayis Sheni, the union of Vavke in the second base of me. The difference between the two, whether it's the Yichud Yudke of Bayis Rishon and the Yichud Vavke in the second base of Mikdash, that the letter Hey is what's primary. When we focus, what is Hey Ilah? Hey Ilah is the level of Bina. Bina is in the manner of avodah of delight. When a person understands something fully, completely comprehends it, so then it's an open and revealed delight. It's also brought down in Kabbalah that the pnimius of Bina reaches all the way to the level of Atik. Atik is the level of pnimius HaKesel, which has to do with delight. So now he explains a very interesting thing. Tefillin which is the level of intellect in general. 4 sections of film is connected Chachma, Bina, Das, and Das is divided into 2 because Das contains it and includes in it Chesed Gvur. And they are called jewelry or adornments, more beautiful things that are worn. It says the reason why we do not wear film on Tisha B'Av. It says that Yecheskel Hanavi in mourning was told to remove his adornments from upon his head. In other words, the film was considered something beautification, and therefore he was told at a time of mourning one removes things that are pleasurable, beautification. And beauty has to do with the idea of the light. Shekosher meaning not tainug, it's connected with tainug. So Bina is connected with the idea of the light and enjoyment. So that is the level of Hey Ilah. That level of Hey Ilah, which is Bina, is the avoida that we are involved in a way of tainug, our delight and enjoyment in avodas Hashem and Hashem. The avodah that comes from the perspective of the lower Hey, doing action and actuality. Oil is no way of accepting the yoke of heaven. That's the idea of Hey Tato, that's the level of Malchus. You do it like the Eibishter is a king. The idea of Kabbalah's oil, you accept what Hashem tells you to do, and that is it. So we see this exact same idea. While the difference in the light and accepting the yoke of heaven is like the difference in serving out of love. Love is an enjoyable avodah. Love is a level of tainug in the light, versus yira, or is a level of kabbalah soil, just accepting the yoke. That's again going back the idea that Hashem will not enter Yerushalayim Shel Maila. He will not enter the level of Bayis Rishon, the level of the Heilah, until he enters Yerushalayim Shel Mata, because Yerushalayim Shel Mata shows on accepting the yoke of heaven, the level of Yira specifically, and that is the main thing that matters, the actual doing of the mitzvahs that we're commanded. The Maimer as of the Maimer that Reb Marash from Tafresh Chavtes, he said, I'm sorry, this is a Maimer of the yes, Reb Marash. Though the simple meaning of the Gemara is Shegadol Yiyah, Void Abayis as Achron Yosem Narishon, it will be greater the glory of this latter house than the former house. In the first house that it says in the Navi, what is he saying? Koi al Bayis Sheni, it's referring top of page Yud, it's referring on the second base of Mikdash. That is a simple meaning that will go the last house, meaning we're now between the first and second base of Mikdash. So that's the latter house, the second base of Mikdash that's going to be built after the destruction. That's the latter house. We're saying that latter house will be greater and more glorious than the first. Despite that, the Koyal base of Mikdash, the lawsuit Lavai. There are those that explain that it's going on the base of Mikdash of the future. In other words, the third base of Mikdash. That the third base of Mikdash will be greater than the first base of Mikdash. The Achron does not mean the second base of Mikdash, but literally the final one. Which final base of Mikdash is there? When you have 3, the final base of Mikdash is the base of Mikdash Shlishi. And that's what it says about the third base of Mikdash. Gadol Yiyah. Great it will be, and the word that's used is Yihi. The word Yiyah has great significance when it comes to Mashiach's times. The laws of Laviksiv concerning the future time, it says, by Yomahu Yiyah, in that day it will be, etc. What's the significance of the word Yiyah? Shtei pa'amim yudke. That Yiyah is twice Yudke. Yudke, instead of Yudke, Vavke. What does that mean? Shavavke Yiyah Shavik my Yudke. Instead of now, when there's a distinction, Yud K and then Vav K, the upper Hey, the lower Hey, the Vav is not like the Yud, etc. There's higher levels and lower levels. When Mashiach comes, the Vav K will be on the same level like the Yud K. That's why it says Yud K Yi. Imtza comes out, Shiyah Gilil, because Yosim Mashahoy Hagilil by Shreini, when Mashiach comes, revelation of godliness will be greater than was the revelation in the second base of Mikdash. The Oz Kibla Hey Tata, involved that then the lower Hey received the Gilui through the Vav. Asid Lava, to Gabel Ma'yud Atzma in the future, the Hey Tata will not be receiving it through the Vav, which is a lower level of Ashpa, but rather it will receive it directly from the Yud, which is the highest level. So it's not just the Hey Law will get from the Yud, but even the Hey Tata will get from the Yud as well. That's why it's Yud K, Yud K. Loshen God, Giek Foida Bais is Achrim expression that the glory of this final base of Mikdash will be greater than the first. It indicates that also it will be greater than the first base of Mikdash, the way it is in the simple Mikdash. If you're just telling me Yihya means it will be on the same level. Yihya means just like the first base of Mikdash receives from the Yud is man the Hey. So too, the latter base of Mikdash, the third base of Mikdash will receive from the Yud, but it's not greater than. The pasuk says, "Godel that the latter base of Mikdash will be greater than. So it means that it has to have something more than the first base of Mikdash. So that's what he's going to explore now. What is it that in the third base of Mikdash is going to be greater even than the first? He says in line 11, with the idea behind this is the Bechdesh, the Kabul Hey Tatam and Ayud Atzma, so the lower Hey, be able to receive directly from the Yud. That's really jumping. That's a really big jump to go all the way from the Yud to the final Hey. That's not a normal type of Ashpa. Normally, the Yud that's next to the Hey is Mashpiyah to the Hey, and the Vav that's next to the second Hey is Mashpiyah to that. Here you want to like break out of the normal thing. You want from the Yud of the beginning of the Yud Kevav should come all the way down to the lower Hey. You need for that extra koiches. It must be that the root of the Amshach that will cause the Yud to go down so low to reach to the Hey Tata, that can only come about if the root of the Amshach comes from a very high place. If it begins in a very high place, then it could cause that the Yud can reach down that far. That's what it means. That will be greater even than the first, because for the Yud to reach the final Hey, you need to have a greater power than what's necessary for the Yud to come into the first Hey. The Rebbe Marash adds at the conclusion of his Maimer, when Mashiach comes, will become revealed. The Shem Yud Kevav gets higher than Seder Shtalshus. What does that mean? So he brings from a psukim that we find this idea that there's two levels of Shem Yud Kevav. You do have a Pirush HaKosav, like it's known in the explanation of the Pasuk Vayikra Havaya Havaya. It says that Havaya called out. Why does it say twice Havaya Havaya? Shnei Shem is Havaya. There are two names of Yud Kevav Ke. Shem Havaya, the Lasata, there's the lower Shem Yud Kevav. That's the Shem Havaya, the way we find it in Sfiras Tatzilus, or the way Shem Havaya is throughout the four oilumis of Abya, Yud is Natzilus, Hey is in Bria, Vav is in Yitzira, and the Hey Tata is in Asir. On the other hand, the Shem Havaya de La'elo, there's the upper level of Shem Havaya. Shem Havaya that's higher than the Seder Shtalshus. It's not connected with the sphere, it's not connected with the elements. So when Mashiach comes, it says over there in the base that the base of Mikdash will not have these Giluyim that we spoke about, the first base of Mikdash or second base of Mikdash, the lower Shem Havaya. Either the Yud K, the first base of Migdash, or the Vav K, the second base of Migdash. These are all the lower levels of Shem Havaya. But rather, it will be the level of Havaya Leila, Havaya that's higher than Nishtalsha. Therefore, the year being the base of Migdash and Shem Havaya Leila will be the building of the base of Migdash from the upper level of Shem Yud K Vav K. I'm sorry, Shalom, that's beyond Seder Shtalsh. Therefore, the glory of this final base of Migdash will be greater than the first, because even the first, that was the level of Yud K, was still the level of Seder Shtalsh. Yirushalayim Havaya, because this building of Yirushalayim of Shem Yud K Vav K, that level is a level of Shem Havaya El Shalom Mishtal, says Yud K Vav K above, that's higher than the Seder Shtalsh. Any questions before we go on?
Does this mean it's going to be like in Bria as opposed to Asiya because it's just the first two?
First of all, I just threw that in about Bria versus Asiya. The main thing that we were talking about over here was in the spheres of Atzilus, Bina versus Malchus. But now the point is, forget about Bina and Malchus. The Shem Havaya that's going to be in the Beis HaMikdash and through the Beis HaMikdash revealed is going to be a Shem Havaya that's totally beyond all these levels, beyond Atzilus and Bria, beyond the spheres of Bina and Malchus, going to be totally beyond Seder Shtalsh.
And we could still survive?
Yes, that's the whole point. The point is that we should survive, not Chas v'Sholom missing in our survival.
But something's got to change because that's a lot of power.
Yeah, so that's going to be the Pella, it's going to be the wonder, it's going to be part of the miracles of Mashiach's times, that through our avodah now we are becoming the kalim necessary to be able to receive this inordinately greater level that wasn't even possible for us to receive during the second and even the first base of Migdash. Okay, bottom of page Yud, line 24. So now he's going to go on to explain more about this distinction and difference between the Shem Havaya of above and the Shem Havaya below. It says in the Pasuk Avram Gomer that Hashem spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he told him when Moshe Rabbeinu was complaining about the situation of the Yidden in Mitzrayim, he said, I appeared to Avram Yitzchak Yaakov, and my name Yud Kei Vav Kei, I did not become known to them. Therefore, go tell the Bnei Yisrael, you're getting Shem Yud Kei Vav. However, it's explained that because of the Golus, that's why they could reach the level of Shem Havaya. But of course, all the Mefarshim ask, how's it possible? What does the Eibishter mean? I did not reveal my Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. Of course, he revealed Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. We find so many times in Chumash Bereshis where it says that Havaya spoke and Havaya appeared to Avram, to the Avis, and so on. So what does it mean that wasn't Shem Havaya? But Shaimisha Avis, the Eitzel Avis, like Gilu Shem Havaya, that by the Avis there was no revelation of Shem Havaya, Rak Matan Torah in this Gal Shem Havaya. That's what it meant. That tell the Bnei Yisrael on the Havaya. When did they have that real revelation on the Havaya? When did the Yidden perceive that and get that? It was during Matan Torah. Anoichi Havaya Lekecha. Havaya became revealed to the Yidden. But the difference between what the Avis had and what the Yidden had, Amnon, Gam Shem Havaya in this Gal. By Matan Torah, top of page Yud Aleph, also the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, it was revealed by Matan Torah, Rak Shem Havaya L'Sato. So in some places he differentiates between the lower Shem Havaya and the higher Shem Havaya, was in the difference in the Avis and the Yidden. Here in this Maimer he says, no, both of them are a level, of course, different levels of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. But it's still the Yidden, what they had by Matan Torah was only the lower level of Shem Yud Kei Vav. Asid Lavi, only when Mashiach comes, is Gal Shem Havaya Le'ela, the higher level of Shem Havaya will become revealed. So Shagam La Asid Lavi, see that's also what it says in the future. But they will say that day, behold, this is our Elikim, this is the Havaya that we hope to him. It says twice the word Zeh. In a Teva Zeh, the word Zeh, Moira Lagili, indicates the idea of revelation. Zeh, Sham Razal, this is what the Chazal said. All the Nevi'im prophesied with the word Koi. He said, Koi Amar Hashem, like this, something like this, similar to this, what Hashem said, not exactly this. It wasn't revelation. Moshe said, Zeh hadavar shedibar Hashem. This is the matter that Hashem spoke. And if we also that his nevuah was what's called a luminous lens, a lens that's clear and bright and allows the light to come through entirely. It's the level of the revelation of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. So that's Zeh. Zeh is the revelation of Yud Kei Vav Kei, because it shows on what Moshe Rabbeinu had. He had the revelation of Asplani Amira. By Mashiach's times, it doesn't say like by Moshe. By Moshe, it only says once Zeh. Mashiach's times, it says twice. So it says twice Zeh. It shows on the revelation of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei above. That's twice Zeh. The lower Zeh, the lower Shem Havaya, and the upper Zeh of the higher Shem Havaya, higher than Seder Shtalshim. Al derech zeh menegiel lebeis hamikdash, similar to this concerning the Beis Hamikdash. Though it says about the second Beis Hamikdash, that the Mikdash of Hashem, your hands prepared, we call Makim Hareze Keichal V'Kli L'Gilu Shem Havaya. It's only a chamber, it's only a room, a palace, and a vessel for the revelation of Yud Kei Vav Kei. And that revelation was different depending on which Beis Hamikdash. On the Bayis Rishon and the Bayis Sheni, the first Beis Hamikdash and the second Beis Hamikdash, Hayakilu the Shem Havayil Satam, was the revelation of the lower Shem Havayil. With Pratius Yosef, Bayis Rishon Hayakilu Shem Yud Keshem Shem Havayil, Bayis Sheni Hayakilu Vav Keshem Shem Havayil. That's we said the whole Maimer. And the previous one in the Hemshech, and the first Beis Hamikdash specifically was the Yud Kei, and the second Beis Hamikdash was Vav Kei. That's why in the second Beis Hamikdash we say it was lacking 5 items. The 5 symbolizes that it was missing the level of hay. What level was it hay missing? It had the lower hay. It was missing the upper hay. So this is all about what was in the first and second Beis Hamikdash, all components of the lower Yud Kei Vav. Beis Hamikdash Shlishi in the third Beis Hamikdash via Gilul Shem Havaya will be a revelation of the upper level of Shem Havaya. So God will yikvoy the bias as our akron. Minarishan, that's what it means. It will be greater the glory of this final home over the first home. The Hafshi Yishmael Bayis Rish. Though there's an advantage in the first Beis Hamikdash. Shinyon, you avoid the tzaddikim, b'chinas Yudkei. That the first Beis Hamikdash we said that's the avoid of tzaddikim. That's the level of Yudkei, the avoid of moichin, the level of love, and so on. Yesh Milo by Sheni, Shinyon, avoid the balshuva b'chinas Vavkei. We also said there's an advantage in the second Beis Hamikdash. That's the avoid of balshuva, the level of Vavkei. Kol malkim yeh Beis Hamikdash the la'asid, loving godly, still in all, the future Beis Hamikdash will be greater than both. Because in the third Beis Hamikdash, it'll have not the avoid of tzaddikim more alone, or avoid of balshuva alone, Yudke versus Vavke. It will have Bain Yerushalayim Havaya. What level of Havaya is Bain Yerushalayim of Mashiach's times? Havaya de La'ela, the upper level of Havaya. Now, our original question, the Maimer, was the connection with healing a broken heart. Now the Rebbe is going to bring the connection to what it says, the healing of the broken heart. So he says, because he continues in the pasuk, the one that heals the broken heart. The idea behind this is, like the Maimer explains, what's broken-hearted people is referring to It's those that their hearts are broken and pressed through the rushing and yearning and desire and thirst. They call the bottle to become consumed in and nullified in the level of the Ein Sof. That is what they are brokenhearted about. That's why every single day it's not enough to be just Ratzui, but it also has to be the Shoiv, the return. So in the Parsha Shnia, the Kriyashma Shabbat Namar, that's the second Parsha of Kriyashma that we say you will gather your grain, meaning after you had the Vahaftas Hashem Elokecha on the first Parsha. So then there comes the second Parsha of the idea of gathering of the grain, meaning let's bring it down into the world. But through building up Yerushalayim, building the third base of Mikdash, through the level of Havaya, Shemeir, Mizgal, Shem Havaya, Elulamatam, that it shines and is revealed the upper level of Shem Yud Kivav down here below. Through that he heals the broken-hearted, like we said before. Since Hashem's godliness will come down here below like it comes on above. We can add in explaining the expression that one that heals, not so much the emphasis now on the brokenheartedness that we explained before. What's the idea of healing? The idea of healing indicates that there was illness. According to what Arizal wrote on the pasuk, all illness, that he writes on that pasuk, that all the sickness and so on that you had Mitzrayim, I will not place upon you, and so on and so forth. So the Arizal writes, Chayla is the numerical equivalent of 49. It's going on 49 gates of bin. What does that mean? Even if he comprehends and he grasps 49 levels of bin. All he's lacking is the 50th gate. Like we find on Moshe Rabbeinu. The Chazal say, 50 gates of Bina were created in the world. And all the 50 gates were given to Moshe, except for one, and meaning he got 49. And that's why it said that you made him a little bit less than Elohim. By missing the 50th gate, he's missing a little. Then, like I said before, he's called sick. He becomes sick from this. Because of his rushing and thirst, that he should have also the revelation of the 50th gate. So we said before, the brokenheartedness has to do because he's thirsting and yearning for godliness. But when we talk about the healing, we're talking about from illness, and the meaning the illness is from, he's missing only the 50th gate. According to this understood, the idea that he heals the brokenhearted, specifically, he heals. He heals the sick. What does it mean he's healing the sick? The healing comes by finally giving him what he's yearning for, by revealing to him the 50th gate. We find by Moshe Rabbeinu the conclusion of his service, before he passed away. He merited also the 50th gate, even though originally he only had the 49. Like it says, that Moshe arose to Har Nevoy. And Chassidus explains Nevoy means Nun Boy. The 50th was in him, that he finally gained the 50th gate. This is what the Chazal say, top of page Gimel. It says, Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu when he asked to see him, so he says, that a person will not see me and live. So the Chazal say, in their lifetime they cannot see. but in their passing they could see. So that's why Moshe Rabbeinu, when he passed away, he attained and saw the 50th gate. My King Yilah said, "Love Gilushara Nun." So to Mashiach comes will be the revelation of the 50th gate. Zel Mashiach made says Mitzrayim and the floors. That's what it says. Like your days going out of the land of Mitzrayim, I will show you wonders. You could divide the word in the floors into two words. Nun flois, the 50 of the wonders. To in Gilushara Nun. It's the revelation of the 50th gate that will happen when Mashiach comes. That's the connection now between he builds Yerushalayim Havai, the one that heals the brokenhearted. Through the building of Yerushalayim Havai, which Havai the Leila training Gilu Sharanun's revelation of the 50th gate. Nasa Reifel Shvur becomes the healing for the brokenhearted. It's the idea of the healing of the illness. That's out of the rushing and the thirsting for the revelation of the 50th gate. Any questions?